Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. My name is Ayuba Ilya. Thank you for joining us. And good morning, Stella.
Good morning, and good morning, Nigeria. So another very exciting day.
Well, quite a defining moment for the All Progressives Congress. In the past 48 hours, the FCT, the Federal Capital, especially around the Triam Zone, the Eagle Square, is agog with activities, everywhere because of the APC primaries. One thing that, a lot of people are finding discomforting is the ease of movement along that route because of the ongoing primaries.
Yeah, but again, okay, maybe it shouldn't have been that way, but the police before now issued an advisory that these areas are going to be blocked. There's going to be beefed up security in some parts of the Federal Capital Territory, and that if you could avoid those areas, you should do that. So. Yeah. Except, of course, in some instances, there are no alternative routes. So that is where the problem comes in. But then,
well, it's a very critical moment anyways for our country because the decision to pick the flag bearers of all the political parties is what sets the tone for the 2023 general elections.
And after today, we'll have the two major candidates going into the elections. Well, that is not to say that there are no other presidential candidates. There will be other presidential candidates. In fact, a matter of fact, the African Democratic Congress, ADC, is holding its primaries today, where Kingsley Mohalu is contesting with Dumebi Kachiku.
Okay, and we also have Labour Party, of course, who has its flag bearer.
We have
already.
The NNPP also.
Peter Obi,
we have
who are going to slug it out. Yes. So far, we can say we have Labour Party, Peter Obi, NNPP, Arabi Musa Konkoso, for the PDP, Atiku Abubakar. The APC is what we're waiting, and that will be any moment from now. If you've been following, Trust TV has been bringing live updates, live coverage of that special convention. Quite a lot happened last night, really. And what's disappointing for me is the fact that after buying 100 million naira form, one of the aspirants
failed to show up.
Just suddenly went missing, and everyone is wondering what happened.
Well, as a matter of fact, even around the Eagle Square, the venue of the primaries, his posters are not there. There's no banner. Nothing about him is there. And he was actually called to come and speak, but there was a no-show.
Well, in case our viewer is guessing who could that be, we're talking about Chukwuemeka Nwajuba, Minister of State for Education, who a former Minister of the State for Education, also an aspirant in that election.
I'm just thinking 100 million naira.
Like, how do you explain that, really? Because, I mean, it doesn't show...
And the aspirants, the curious part is the fact that he's from a part of the country that has been agitating for this position. So I would have thought that he would be there, as part of that agitation for the number one position in the country.
It doesn't show someone who is really, really, really in this race, per se. We've seen a couple of people also step aside for others, specifically Bola Ahmed Tinubu, quite a number of people, I think seven people stepped down for him. Abubakar Badaru is one of them. We also have Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State. Ibikule Amosu is one of them.
Godswill
Akpabio is one of them. And
we have the lone female aspirant. She also stepped down for Asiwaju.
Oju, yes, she did step down. And, we are still waiting. A lot of people thought by now we would have had the result.
I thought the result would be ready by now, but from feelers, it may not be ready before 12 noon.
But anyways, we'll be connecting with our team. Our correspondent is live there later on the program to give us an update on the situation. But so far, let's take a look at the headlines. First of all, voting ongoing as APC delegates elect presidential candidate.
Judge orders seizure of 6 judiciary reporters' phones in court.
Ondo church attack. Bombs recovered at scene of incident, according to the police.
Now the news in details. Voting is ongoing among delegates from various states as the APC elect presidential candidate to flag the party's flag for the 2023 general elections. The exercise was put on hold as Kano delegates were casting their ballots in the keenly contested exercise. Chairman of Kano APC, Alhaji Abdullahi Abbas, was seen arguing with some officials before voting was suspended. Less than 20 of the 127 delegates from Kano had voted before the exercise was suspended. Delegates from Benue, Nasarawa, Ondo, Ogun, Kano have cast their ballots. We'll bring you updates as events unfold.
In fact, from what we am hearing from our team at the control room, we can connect to our correspondent who is out there on the field for updates. So let's get Shafiu. Hello, Shafiu. Well, good morning.
Special convention for the presidential primary of the APC. And of course, as we speak, election is ongoing. Substantially, a number of states have already, cast their votes. And of course, we are also aware that the fact that so far we have 14 aspirants in the race. Yesterday, we've seen 9 withdrew. 7 in favor of Asoju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, 1 in favor of the Vice President Emil Shibanjo, and the other on his own, voluntarily withdraw from the race. So the accredited delegates across the federation are still casting their votes, perhaps to decide who apply the plug of the APC. The atmosphere here is calm. Virtually everyone seems exhausted. People have been, a number of people have slept here. Some are still sleeping as we speak. But then activities have recommenced as usual. Expectations are high with regards to the outcome of the exercise. It is, somehow peaceful, except for a few hiccups here and there.
Okay, now, among the aspirants, I believe that a number of them would have, been out of the Eagle Square at the moment. How many are left, or is there anyone still hanging around?
I haven't seen anyone. Virtually the VIP stands is empty since the speech presented by President Muhammadu Buhari. Virtually all the VIPs have vacated. But then I've seen a couple of governors, especially the organizers, are still very much around, monitoring the exercise.
So at what time of the day do you think voting is going to commence? Well, not voting, the counting of the votes.
Well, just like I said earlier, substantially, delegates from across the federation have voted. So far, very few states are remaining. So perhaps in a couple of minutes or, let's say precisely an hour or so, we should be able to see the end of this exercise, and then collation will now take place, and then counting, sorting, collation sorting, counting, and of course, the announcement of the winner.
All right, now give us a sense of the mood last night while all the aspirants were giving their speech. We understand that one of the aspirants went missing, Chukwuemeka Nwajuba, who is the former Minister of State for Education. What happened? Is there any information as to why he went missing?
Well, there wasn't any information as such. Remember, the MC called on him twice to come and have his shot, with regards to the speeches that have been delivered by the aspirants. But in the event he was not, when they realized he was not forthcoming, they would have to go on with the exercise. And the Vice President was the last to speak. You've had, the cheering of his supporters and so on. They took almost a few minutes for them to allow him, to deliver his speech. So it is also with the Asoju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who was the first person to speak. even though it was calm, but the supporters too were there to cheer up. So a number of aspirants have spoken to Nigerians directly. Some have spoken to the delegates. Everyone has market, and others use their strategies to market and demarket their opponents, and so on and so forth. But then the ultimate deciders are the delegates, and they are deciding as we speak.
All right, now can you tell us who are still in the race? We know that Godswill Akpabio stepped down for Siwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Ibikule Amosun did the same. Kayode Fayemi did the same. Dimeji Bankole did the same. Abubakar Badaru did the same. Ajayi Boroface. And also Uju Ohaneye, the only female aspirant in the race, also step aside for Bola Tinubu. And then we also have Dr. Nicholas Felix, who stepped down for Sibanjo. So who is still in the race? Kent Namani has also stepped aside, though not for anyone. Ogbonna Onu is still in the race, we know. And then Tunde Bakari is still in the race, we know that. But who else is still in the race?
As you are aware, the Vice President is still in the race. Rotimi Amechi is still in the race. Tian Jack Rich is in the race, and several others. Too numerous to mention. We're talking about 14 aspirants who are currently in the race.
How many, Shafiu, how many states are yet to cast their votes? How many states are yet to cast their votes?
As at the last count, there are very few states that are left. Well, as we speak, it is still ongoing. Perhaps as I'm talking to you right now, some more must have casted their votes. But I told you earlier, there are very few states that are remaining, perhaps less than 10, so to speak.
Okay, Shafiu. Yesterday, early this morning, when the Kanu people were casting their votes, at some point it got suspended, and before the suspension, there was some form of argument. Can you speak to that? What led to it?
Well, I talked about what happened earlier on. There were some hiccups here and there. There was an exchange, if you like, or disagreement between security, some of the security personnel and a delegate. Perhaps that's what led to the suspension, because they were engaged, physically in a physical engagement. That has to call for the suspension so that the security personnel and the organizers can calm the nerve for the exercise to continue.
And that's the state with the highest number of delegates, right?
Accredited delegates from Imo State. Please.
That's right. That's very correct.
For voting.
All right. Now, there are those who, probably felt that the whole consensus conversation or the whole primary should have been microzone to the southeast. For instance, Kent Namani and Ogbonna Onu made a case for the issue of justice. They made a case about issue of fairness, in the whole process and everything. Can you talk about that?
Kaduna delegates to please
that's right. Substantially, these key aspirants, have made a case for the Southeast, which has been complaining of marginalization, over the years. They talked about the need for justice. They also, in a way, talked to their counterparts in the southwest part of the country to have allowed them, perhaps, to produce the flag bearer of the party. But as you are aware, this has not been forthcoming. It has been an issue that is ongoing within the party and, of course, across party lines. But then we are in a democratic process. All the aspirants believe that it should be left open so that the delegates will decide. Remember, there were also a push by the northern governors, 12 of them, who believe that the position should go to the south. They signed, a document which they presented to President Muhammadu Buhari to push further their demand. But in the end, they didn't have their way. I think, the ultimate thing for the party to do as it deemed fit was to open the contest so that everybody can slug it out, and then whoever emerges will now be the product of the delegate themselves.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Shafiu. We'll be reconnecting back to you later on the program for more updates as they unfold. Thank you. Well, that was Shafiu Suleiman there. Well, quite a lot is really going on. But for now, let's take a look at some more stories as we have them right now. A judge of a federal capital territory high court has ordered the seizure of mobile phones of 6 judiciary reporters in Abuja. Justice Chizoba Oji ordered them to hand over the phones to her police orderly after she resumed a recess and found the journalists arguing with the officials over their taking pictures and videos in the court. Trouble started shortly after the court's register insisted the reporters have no right to cover the courtroom shortly after the judge stood down a matter and entered her chambers to prepare a ruling. After a scuffle that lasted over an hour, Justice Orji re-entered the courtroom and summoned the AIT reporter to step forward. The 6 journalists are Wumi Obabori of AIT, Godwin TSA of the Sun newspaper, Ikechukwu Nochiri of Vanguard newspaper, Austin Okezi of Ray Power FM, Kunle Olasami of Leadership newspaper, and a veteran journalist, Charles Oziomena. These are the people involved in this.
Now, the Inspector General of Police, Usman Al-Kalibaba, has revealed the bombs have been recovered from the Sunday attack that took place at St. Francis Xavier Catholic Church, Owo, in Ondo State. Baba, who condemned the tragic act, said some perpetrators disguised as congregants. According to the IG, police investigators who were part of the first responders deployed to the scene have recovered pellets of expended AK-47 ammunition, while the explosive ordnance devices, chemical, biological, radiologic, and nuclear explosive unit confirmed the use of explosives as fragments of the IEDs used were found, and after thorough sweeping of the scene. 3 unexploded IEDs were also recovered at the scene of the incident.
All right, now we'll take a short breather, and then when we come back, the program will continue. Please stay with us. right, thank you for staying. Now, let's take a look at what's happening elsewhere. This time around, in Kano, candidates who emerged in the recently concluded primaries of the All Progressives Congress, APC, have expressed optimism that the party will emerge victorious in the 2023 general elections. Trust TV's Jibrin Idris reports that the APC in Kano also confirmed that the primary election was successful as much complaints were registered. No complaint, rather, was registered. So let's take a look.
There is no doubt that 2023 may likely be the toughest political season in Kano history, with the atmosphere already becoming tense. Although many residents expect a change, but the ruling All Progressive Congress believes that they are off for it come 2023.
During the 2015, it was Konkoso Ganduje against Malang Ibrahim Shekarau. Then 2019, it was Shekarau Ganduje against Konkoso. Now it was Shekarau Konkoso against Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje. Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje has done so many things that the good people of Kano State will never forget about him. So I'm telling you that His Excellency is going to have the support of the people of Kano State, and APC is going to win the election.
According to some candidates of the party, despite the current political situation in the country, APC is more than ready to provide meaningful change across Kano State.
No another any parties when you can join it with APC in Kano, because of no any another, because of PDP they are already out. Secondly, this is a new party, what you call them, and I don't know how NNPP is a new, and majority, if you for history, Kano cannot take any new party.
Politics, there are problems here and there. Some people are aggrieved, so you need to sit down with them, understand their problems, persuade them, apologize where necessary, so that they will come and team up with the party to ensure success. So I think what is the task ahead now is to ensure that we have go around nook and cranny of the constituency to win the support of the electorates, not only people in APC, but even other people in other political parties.
Meanwhile, as at the time of electoral panel sitting in Kano, officials say there is no much complaint regarding the conduct of the primary, which in itself is a sign of success.
A panel of appeal was constituted by the national body, and they are here at the national state headquarters receiving complaint. After receiving complaint, they will evaluate all the complaint. If there is any issue, they will let us know that so local government there is an issue. These are the issue. Maybe they may disqualify that election.
While 2023 is fast approaching, it is hoped that the election will represent the will of the electorate. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
And now from Kano, still on politics, to Katsina State, where about 300 members of the ruling All Progressive Congress in Katsina local government area have decamped to the opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP. The party's faithful accused the leadership of the APC in Katsina local government area of exploitation and lack of reward system. Let's take the report.
The massive cross-carpeting is coming barely few days after the conduct of the party's primaries, which was presumed by many as a free, fair and acceptable exercise. But it obviously is not so. These decampees are boasting that they are moving over to the opposition PDP is just a tip of the iceberg, as many of their aggrieved members will soon join them in the PDP. You are welcome to the fold of PDP. You are as good as all other members of the party. In PDP, your rights and privileges are assured. You will have equal rights and opportunity. These aggrieved APC members who are throwing their weight behind the PDP were drawn from Kudutu ward in Katsina local government area alone. They say the APC is either not ready to lead or lacks the capacity, goodwill and political will to chart a course for others to follow. In other words, the damning verdict is that the ruling party has failed its members in all ramifications. Receiving the decampees into the fold of the PDP, a former secretary to the government of Katsina State, Ibrahim Saidi, and a former permanent secretary, Danjuma Alti, assured them that the PDP was the only reliable party through which Nigerians could actualize their dreams. The PDP is the unifying political party, the gubernatorial candidate, the party under which Governor Yaradua and Governor Shema both performed wonderfully, and that is why people are decamping from other parties to PDP. We admit about 300 people from APC to PDP, and we expect to be joined by more in this one-rose effort to wrestle power from the ruling All Progressives Congress APC in Katsina State. They say the PDP is ready to receive all interested people from all other political parties, not just the APC, who can assist it in wrestling power from the ruling All Progressive Congress APC in the country and Katsina State in particular. Political watchers are foreseeing a massive wind of inter-party movement blowing, a situation which they project will reach full scale after the conduct of presidential conventions by all parties. Abdullahi Ismail, Trust Television News, Katsina.
Well, that's Abdullahi Ahmadi from Katsina there. Quite a serious one, because when you see this happens, then you wonder whether the All Progressives Congress really in the coming election in 2023 will have the kind of strength it had in the last election in 2019. Don't forget that
most unlikely.
Don't forget that Katsina is quite strategic for the APC.
It's even the state of the president.
Exactly, especially in the 2019 election. They call them Kadesians. It's one of the Kadesians. You know, Kano, Kaduna, and Katsina. And now, if you have this happening in Katsina, then you also have the Kwankwasia movement in Kano with the coming up of the NNPP and everything. Then I wonder what's going to happen.
You know what is interesting for me is the fact that going into the next elections, it will be most unlikely that you have one very big party with so many followers, because so many people have moved. So there's going to be a little of this, a little of that, a little of... So there's going to be a little of everything.
The votes will be scattered.
The votes are going to be scattered. Of course, maybe the APC will still have the advantage of the fact that they are the ruling party, but that thing of just looking and saying, this is the party that is going to take it all, is going to be a bit difficult. You know, like in the past where you say, okay, 20 states went to this particular party. It's most unlikely that that's going to happen in the next election.
Well, we'll continue to see how all of that will pan out. For now, let's take a quick break. And then when we come back, we'll be taking a look at the front pages of our newspapers this morning, the dailies on Daybreak, with our guest reviewer. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that you look at the same, not necessarily tribal or regional.
Thank you for staying. Now, straight up, we go into the dailies on Daybreak. We have Ben Shemang, Director of News, Voice of Nigeria. He's our reviewer this morning. Thank you for joining us on Daybreak.
My pleasure once again.
Thank you for coming here despite the long night you had in the newsroom.
Absolutely. I slept in my own newsroom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's also some patriotic service, doing.
The things journalists do.
The things that
to
journalists
ensure that
do.
people get the right information.
Yeah,
right?
a lot of times people do not see what happens at the back end.
Yeah.
But, a whole lot goes on at the back end to make sure that you get the information that you get every day. Now, let's take a look at the Daily Trust newspaper, for instance. It leads with the story that says, APC presidential ticket, Osinbajo, Lawan, Amechi in race as Tinubu coast to victory. Fayemi, Badaru, Akpabio, 4 others step down for Asiwaju. We must remain united, Buhari says. You also have above the lead story, repair, FG to partially close Lagos-Ibadan highway. Climate Change Act, despite growing crisis, FG yet to inaugurate council. And then below the pictorial that shows you the 4 major contenders in the APC presidential primaries, the Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, Senate President Ahmed Lawan, former Minister of Transportation Rotimi Amechi, and also former Lagos State Governor Bola Tinubu. You have also below that, Keredolu confirms 22 deaths in Owo Catholic Church attack. Senate Leader Yahaya Abdullahi dumps APC for PDP. You also have soldier Korea crushed while rescuing accident victim in Abuja. Banditry, Magban seeking a way out. These are the stories on the front page of the Daily Trust this morning.
All right, now let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. The Punch newspaper is also on the APC convention. It has presidency, drama, color as APC holds primary. It has a rider that says Tinubu Oshibajo emerge as front runners. Amechi Lawan insist on ticket. How Akpabio, Amosun, Fayemi, Bankole, Borough, Badaru, others stepped down. Delegates vote into the early hours of the morning. Buhari wants level playing field. Then we have a pictorial there that shows the different segments of the APC primaries, and it's very colorful indeed. Then at the top, above the masthead, we have Owo massacre. Church confirms 38 deaths, plans mass burial for unidentified corpses. Talks with federal government panel over strike fruitless, says Sanu. Primary Southeast PDP delegates neglected their aspirants, says Ohabua. And below the pictorial here, we have Okada riders, Lagos task force clash, 180 motorcycles seized. Lagos bishop allegedly rapes female pastor twice, threatens reporter. We also have a story that says, we won't leave Southeast. Our parents lived here for over 100 years. This is coming from the Serkin Hausa Anamba Harura. These are the major stories on the Punch for this morning.
All right, now let's take a look at next, the Daily Independent newspaper. It also leads with the APC presidential story. You have APC delegate elect presidential candidate, of course, as expected. The next one, EFCC officials storm APC convention. And then also, our massacre, Akeredolu releases figures of casualties. Jigawa APC delegate dies in Abuja. You also have our shootings, WHO to support FMC, Ondo government. How Nigeria can save poultry industry by association. And then the very bottom, you don't need medicines if you eat right, NAFDAC tells Nigerians. AEDC threatens legal actions over alleged EFCC invasion, assault on staff. These are the stories on the front page of Daily Independent.
Now to the Sun newspaper. Also on the presidential primaries of the APC, Akpabio and Moson Fayemi give Tinubu boost by stepping down. We have a writer that says also Governor Badaru Bankole Borofe stepped down for ex-Lagos governor. And then we have, at the top of that, we have a story that says Soludo mocks Catholic priest Ebube Monso, calls clerics' prophecies fictitious, politically motivated. And then we also have another headline that says, Nigeria heading to anarchy. This is coming from Khan. UN condemns Ondo church attack. And on the right side of the paper, there's a story there that says, drama in Abuja court as angry judge orders seizure of reporter's camera, deletion of video clips, walks journalist out. That's out of the court. Then there's this other story, UBEC, 110 billion assessed, not utilized by states.
On the Guardian newspaper this morning, the lead story says, consensus fails, 14 aspirants on ballot for APC presidential ticket. You also have 22 confirmed death in Ondo church attack as UN Secretary General others condemn killings. IPOP raises the alarm over alleged plan to seize guns in Southeast. 600 million persons fall ill, 420,000 others die globally from toxic foods. MKO's son, Kola, pledges commitment to nation building. Makinde announces Bayo Lawal as running mate for 2023 governorship polls. That's that for The Guardian.
And for the This Day, well, the This Day appears to have taken this story before that, just like the Daily Trust did, but in a different light. At APC convention, This Day projects Tinubu as winner. Then at the top of that, we have a story that says, UN to Nigeria, bring perpetrators of Owo Catholic Church attack to justice. Then at the bottom, then we also have the pictures of the top contenders. We have Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we have Oshibajo, Amechi, and Lawan. Under that picture is a story that says, primaries, IG raises electoral offenses desks nationwide. Those are the major stories on This Day.
On the Nation newspaper, it leads with a story, Tinubu set for victory. Fayemi, Akpabio, Badaru, and Mosun step down for ex-Lagos governor. Felix withdraws for Osibanjo. Voting suspended for 2 hours. And then at the very top, you'd see Nigeria's oil revenue dips to 945 billion naira. Owo attack, 38 bodies for burial, says Bishop. Why Makinde dropped ex-deputy by Oyo PDP. 3,000 out of 34,000 PVCs collected in Lagos. And that's that for the Nation newspaper.
And I think for the last newspaper for this morning, the Nigerian Tribune, their lead story, APC convention suffers hiccups, voting drags. It has a rider that says delegates from only 3 states had voted as at 3:52 a.m. And then we have the story, we also have at the top, Makinde picks Bayo Lawal as running mate for 2023 elections. Fulani attack, I don't need your prophecies, Soludo replies Catholic priest. Tension as Okada riders go on the rampage in Lagos. We also have a story that says breakthrough for cancer treatment as U.S. drug trial records 100% success. DSS rescues abducted Kano APC senatorial candidate's mother in Jigawa. And also the story here that says UBEC earmarks $2 billion for 2022 nationwide schools personnel audit. Those are the major stories on the Tribune for today.
All right, now that's that for the newspapers. Let's get some perspectives to all of these. Like we told you, we have Ben Chairman, guest reviewer in the studio. Thank you again for coming on the show. One thing stands out. It's almost as if all the papers have a consensus, in the spirit of consensus, to lead with the political story, the APC presidential primaries right now, as we have it. Quite a lot happened last night. But let's get your thoughts on some of the events that happened at the convention.
Yes. Usually, when people talk of the media circle, buy one, read all. In other words, if you just buy one of the dailies, you're virtually reading what is in the content of the other newspapers. Because it is the end thing. It is what is dominating today. Because if you look at parameters of selecting news, what is so dominant today will always get this
anyway,
focus.
But in any case, why do you think that the APC presidential primaries is generating so much attention and so much, interest among Nigerians? Like, I know that yesterday, Twitter, for instance, was washed with tweets every minute, every second. People were tweeting on the spot as it's happening. Whatever is going on there, you see it somewhere on the Twitter.
Yeah, you see, number one, APC is the governing party. And of course, PDP is coming to challenge that, who want to, offstage them, remove them from government. And apart from that, look at within the party. In terms of crisis, they have it so much. And how indeed were they coming how are they going to be out of that crisis? When indeed within the party, you see the chairman of the, national chairman of the party, at the point they said, look, they've already anointed someone to be in charge. And that it was done by the president. The president's spokesman came to say, look, the president does not have a chosen candidate. And you could also see Yaya Bello of Kogi State storming from various meetings and going to the villa.
But so that's quite contradictory
because
it's quite contradictory. In the interview that the president granted somewhere, I think towards the end of last year or early this year or so, with several channels, he said that he's not going, it doesn't look like he doesn't have a preferred candidate. He said, but he's not going to reveal who that candidate is. So there's at least there is we all know that he has a preferred candidate. He has just not disclosed it. But when is the president going to disclose his candidate?
Well,
the primaries the primaries is almost over.
And before you speak, apart from the fact that the president said at one point that he wasn't going to disclose the candidate because of the safety of that person, not too long ago, about 2-3 weeks ago, he also said to the governors that they should allow him to pick his successor. Then the same president, about 3 days ago, also said he has no anointed candidate. So I'm wondering, all of the statements.
And the same president, to add, also said the winner might not be a money back, so to speak. But you see, in all of this, the president is also a human being. He has to take very good precaution because any statement he makes is like the law.
But all of these crises that we're seeing, it looks like it's pointing to one man. It looks like the president is why all these permutations and all these, alignment, realignment is going on within the APC. Don't you think so?
Absolutely, but because it evolves around the president because he is the leader of that party. He is the one holding the party, stitching it together. If you like, you call Ahmed Tinubu leader of this, leader of that. In the real sense of it all, the leader of that party is President Muhammadu Buhari. Therefore, if he made any statement for or against, if he divulges every information, I tell you, many people either go scampering. Look, let's go join some other smaller parties. So he has to be very, very careful.
Okay.
And of course, he's also insisting that he has to be quit a kind of a unified party that will fight and stay in.
Before Stella, before you come in now, I don't know if you observed something during the primaries, yesterday, how that majority of the aspirants came and were talking to the president instead of talking to the delegates. Some of them were actually even re-campaigning for the president. Someone, I think it's Ikiobasi or something, didn't even talk about himself. He was talking about the president. The same campaign speech of 2015, you know, that's what he kept reeling out. While others were also talking about how well the president has performed and this one and that one without even really focusing enough time on themselves. So what does that tell about, you know, our politicking and our, you know, democracy and all?
If you look at the way some governors campaign in Nigeria, they always bring the photograph of the president so big, then they put theirs under a bit small. In other words, their survival depends on the president. If you have some goods to sell, for God's sake, sell them. If you have some agenda, you have some programs to sell onto Nigeria, sell them. And that was why if you check the person of Tunde Bakari, he said it should be issue-based rather than coming to just praising a government that is already going out. When indeed he said, look, among us, those contesting against him, he called himself the 16th president of Nigeria in waiting. You see that many of these aspirants are already facing EFCC. I mean, it also means that to him, they ought not to have come on board in the first place. You also see that the way some people are also stepping down as if it was already stage managed. And you've spoken, you've finished, and you've gone. Suddenly they said, we have candidate so. I mean, aspirant so. He has some messages. And you just come and say, I hereby support the president. The case of Ike Ubasi, that man was busy running the biography of Muhammadu Buhari, who indeed is counting months to go. Instead of him to sell his own candidacy, let's see the stuff you have. What is it that you know? How much do you know Nigeria? What is it you are bringing on board? Just like, again, Tunde Bakari will say, people will come and promise you heaven on earth, but they don't give you how they're going to do it. You're talking about insecurity. How are you going to do it?
You know, you mentioned...
talk about unemployment, the myriads of unemployed people here and there. You said you're going to handle that. How do you intend to do it when indeed population is just outnumbering what facilities we have on ground?
You know, you mentioned the fact that some people, after talking, they came back and stepped down. You know, before the convention, there was this story, there was this thing of, would there be a consensus, would not be a consensus? And there were fears in some quarters that if for whatever reason there's an imposition, that could cause problem. So some people will say that throwing open that race last night was the best option for the APC. And so with people, now people had to voluntarily say, okay, fine, I'm stepping down. Wasn't that the best way for the APC to go?
Well, it was the best for the APC, the best for some candidates too, because of course they had, I mean, they must have read between the lines and seen that, look, I have nowhere to go. Bearing in mind that if you saw some of the candidate aspirants saying the kind of money that was going on, by sharing of money behind the scene, you know, Rochas Okorocha will tell you, look, all these people sharing money, they got them from government. So before he went into politics, he was already well-to-do. And well, some people could be big-mouthed, sorry for using that time. But again, if that is their stock in trade, why not? But again,
do you believe that there are some that didn't share money?
Yes, before I finish. You see, some of these smaller parties have quickly done their own primaries. So they've sealed their ceiling, probably. But you see that some are marking time, believing that if there are some discordant voices, some feel that they've been cheated out of the process, they could rush into some other alliances. I am aware that SDP has not done its own, and they are planning to do it soon after APC finishes its own convention. So it means that if someone is feeling disgruntled or feeling skewed out, of course, they could go there and of course, they just get the candidacy, I mean, on a platter of gold without any contest.
You're talking about some aspirants saying some have shared money. Do you truly believe that there are some that did not share money?
Well,
that just came on their own to to test their goodwill?
I think I'll just be a saint if I say, I mean, a prophet, if I say people did not or people shared. But I think that even if you paid some people transport fare to come to this place, I mean, you paid
You
money.
have given money.
Exactly.
If you paid for their hotel accommodation, you have given money.
People have been housed in a hotel. They are being controlled. You can't go out. You can't link up with another group. I'm told that at a point, they want to know, you have to be in a group, so that if you are making a phone call and they see that you are leaving the usual group as the people are seated, it means you want to pass a vital information to some other opponents. So it has gone to that level. But I hope that some people will learn from candidate Sabo of Southern Kaduna, who indeed got how much in millions, which that he had never seen before. And he took it to his constituents and said, look, this money belongs to you. Where are the people who cannot pay WAEC or NECO? Where are the sick people? And of course, the rest, they said, we'll give this to the political party so that we become stronger. We want to see. Unlike some people, they said they got that money, right from Abuja here, they went to car sellers and bought cars, drove back home, and they went, took them there as back home as dividends of democracy. So democracy is becoming so costly in Nigeria. We are practicing capitalism, but I tell you, this is capitalism taken to another level. We are approaching a kind of a zenith. This is just for candidates. Looking for candidates. We're talking of primaries for aspirants looking for candidacy, and we are reaching. We are spending this money. Indeed, we also ought to see INEC coming to bear here, because there is a ceiling as to how much a candidate is supposed to spend.
You know, yesterday, the one of the aspirants mentioned something to Bakari, and he pointed to the fact that probably some of the EFCC is going to come after some of the aspirants. And we also heard that the EFCC actually stormed the venue of the convention, just like they did with the PDP as well, like we heard. Now, why should the EFCC be going to, the venue of the convention? What could they do there?
I think since they were not maintaining peace, they ought to have, via the Finance Intelligence Unit, these are people who secretly monitor lodgements of accounts. When you withdraw money, of course, that's what is called KYC, know your customer. Politically exposed persons ought to have been known, and they begin to monitor their accounts. This how much they have. Now politics has come in, they have taken this amount. You monitor, indeed, when we're talking of fund transfers, you begin to know where has this money gone to, who received them. And of course, there's supposed to be a narration. This money is for what? And again, you look at when accounts begin to pop up here and there, meaning that there have been lodgements, where are these monies coming from? So they ought to know all of this. Instead of storming a political arena and ensuring that, do I say scatter the situation? I remember when Rochas Okorocha came on board, or when he was given his own time to campaign, he said, look, it's by the sheer luck of God that this event was shifted to yesterday. Because as at last week, if they had done it, he would have been skimmed out because EFCC had arrested him. So if he could come out that way, I think more so when the president told EFCC, he said, look, don't be used as a hunter's dog to pursue political opponents. Okay. President Buhari advised EFCC, but again, we saw them at the venue. Well, they said they saw them. I didn't see them. But if they were there, I think it's just not it. They should fight it, secretly, so that the media trial is not done. It shouldn't be the approach.
Well, one of the aspirants in that primaries went missing. I just cannot, wrap my head around why someone will pick a form of 100 million naira and do not get to go and sell himself before the people that are to vote him, or not to vote him and all that. it just beats my imagination. And I'm sure you know who I'm talking about.
Yes, Minister of State for Education. Now, is he...
Former.
Former, yes. He was, in fact, the very first to resign so that he would face it, his political career. But when the examination came, date of examination, he disappeared. Now, we've said something. EFCC was on ground. I'm not saying he was scared of EFCC, but EFCC was on ground. Again, when people talk of contributing to the success of a political party, was it that money was a kind of a donation to the party? Okay, let's wait and see. Supposing APC wins, are we saying that these are people who indeed they'll count and say, look, because of sacrifice, it's not easy for someone to carry a whooping some 100 million dash to a party. Do we just leave him like that? Or we, again, appoint him to his former position, Minister of State for Education, when indeed where he left with myriads of problems. ASU is on strike, polytechnics lecturers on strike, and of course, you are busy campaigning and you feel that at that point, I think out of conscience, some people ought not to have come out to say they want to be president, because little ministries they ought to handle and put in proper shape. I mean, since coming to power, count the number of strikes ASU has embarked upon without being resolved. Today, as we are talking, I mean, universities are still under lock and key. It's just not the best. So for a candidate or an aspirant to pay this money, they were busy, embarrassingly, on stage. Where is aspirant so? And nobody could answer, not even by proxy, no one, no message, just nothing. And I think that they are taking Nigerians for a ride. It's not the best.
All right. Well, we'll take a short breather, and then when we come back, we'll continue with the show. Our guest will still be here with us in the studio. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that you look at the same, not necessarily tribal or regional. Because I have said that.
All right, thank you for staying. You're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. It's top of the hour. Let's take a look at the headlines again. Voting ongoing as APC delegates elect presidential candidate.
Judge orders seizure of 6 judiciary reporters' phone in court.
Ondo church attack, bombs recovered at scene of incident, according to police.
Now the news in details. Voting is ongoing among delegates from various states as the ruling All Progressives Congress elect presidential candidate to fly its flag at the 2023 general elections. The exercise was put on hold as Kanu delegates were casting their ballots in the keenly contested exercise. Chairman of Kanu APC Alhaji Abdullahi Abbas was seen arguing with some officials before voting was suspended. Less than 20 of the 127 delegates from Kanu had voted before the exercise was suspended. Delegates from Benue, Nasarawa, Ondo, Ogun, Kanu have cast their ballots.
All right, now a judge of a federal high court in Abuja has ordered the seizure of mobile phones of 6 judiciary reporters in Abuja. Justice Chizoba Orji ordered them to hand over the phones to her police orderly after she resumed recess and found the journalists arguing with the officials over their taking pictures and videos in the court. Trouble started shortly after the court's register insisted the reporters have no right to cover the courtroom shortly after the judge stood down a matter and entered her chambers to prepare a ruling. After a scuffle that lasted over an hour, Justice Orji re-entered the courtroom and summoned the AIT reporter to step forward. The 6 journalists are Wumi Obabori of AIT, Godwin Tiesa of the Sun newspaper, Ikechukwu Nochiri of Vanguard newspaper, Austin Okezi of Ray Power FM, Kunle Olasami of Leadership newspaper, and Charles Ozomena, also a reporter there. Now, these are the people involved.
Now, the Inspector General of Police, Usman Al-Kalibaba, has revealed that bombs have been recovered from the Sunday attack that took place at St. Francis Xavier Catholic Church, Owo, in Ondo State. Baba, who condemned the tragic act, said some perpetrators disguised as congregants. According to the IGP, police investigators who were part of the first responders deployed to the scene have recovered pellets of expended AK-47 ammunition. 3 unexploded IEDs were also recovered at the scene of the incident.
All right, that's that for the highlights so far. Let's take a quick break now, and then when we come back, the show will continue. Please stay with us. All right, thank you for staying with us. You're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital. Now, we'll take a snippet from the speech of the national chairman of the All Progressives Congress yesterday while declaring the APC presidential primaries open at the Eagle Square, and just a snippet of what transpired. Take a look.
I cannot overemphasize the importance of this occasion for our party and our nation. You know as much as I do that the fate of our party depends on what we do here in the next 2 days. I urge us to commit to the best practices in party politics by being honest and fair in our dealings, as well as keep our eyes on the ultimate prize, the post-President Muhammadu Buhari presidency in 2023. Since this National Working Committee that I'm privileged to lead assumed office a little over 2 months ago, I have continually harped on the need for our unity. We can do nothing unless we are truly united in thoughts, words, and deeds. Unity is the only glue that can hold our party together. It should go without saying that we cannot go into the general elections next year and expect to remain in Aso Rock without putting our house in order. It does not take rocket science to unite the party. It takes sincerity of purpose, commitment, and determination to sacrifice our individual interests and ambitions to the larger interests of the party in the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The First Lady, the APC National Chairman, President of the Senate, Speaker of the House of Representatives. The critical task ahead of the Abdullahi Adamullah National Working Committee remains to continue to forge for the unity of purpose among party members and to keep securing needed compromises in the interest of our great party. I enjoin you all to be fair to all and to create a level playing field for all the potential aspirants in the coming crucial party exercise.
Well, there you have it. The focus of the president is choose a candidate that will unify the party, that will be able to confront the challenges that the country is dealing with at the moment. And that has been the central focus of this message.
Even the chairman of the party, Abdullah, he talked about unity. And I think the APC needs unity now more than ever, because whatever happens today is going to determine how the APC goes into the general elections. And already you can see defections here and there.
Mm-hmm. Now, one video went viral yesterday that has to do with the Kogi State governor, an aspirant in that primary election, how he was exchanging pleasantries with others, and then it got to the national chairman, and it appeared to have snubbed the national chairman of the party. That went viral, and people are reading meaning into that. What's your take on that?
Well, I think even by African culture, where it is necessary, you must even greet your real enemy. But these are political enemies. And being on the same party, same platform, I think that it went beyond the normal. When you're talking of, a very young fellow and an older one in terms of generational gap, I think that even when we say respect your elders, we should also act respect even your age mates and the younger ones. So I think it was just out of it. But let's look at this issue of the president saying we must have a candidate that unifies this nation. And that brings to mind what the aspirants from the southeast were saying aspirant
Ogbonnaya
aspirant Ken Namani. So look, when we say power should shift to the south, they counted southwest they've produced, south they've produced, northwest they've produced. Now we have the central part. We also have the Igbo extraction. So he felt that justice, equity demands that this ought to have gone to the southeast. But again, you look at the case with the southeast. When PDP had theirs, how many of the Igbos or extraction got votes that you say, yeah, they had people behind them?
You
and
know,
see the way Peter
persons...
Obi also left. I mean, it says something about the Southeast. And when they say, look, when APC came on board and there was this movement towards Muslim ticket, he said, look, this thing is going to tear us apart. Religion, you know how sensitive it is in this country. And he brought it again on stage yesterday. I said, look, why don't we begin to think of balancing this country in terms of even religion also? And I hope that that is a very good advice to APC, because we should not just believe that religion is a non-issue. Look at what is happening today. Religion is tearing us apart. If some people feel, yes, we have to feel longing, whether that person performs or not, well, so be it. But I think that we should not just sweep that aspect of justice.
But there's this problem, though. It's a good thing. When I listened to Ogbonnaya and Ken Namani, I understood where they were coming from. However, some persons have said that the people from that region are not doing enough to get it. For instance, look at Emeka Nwajuba yesterday. He's from that region. That was one opportunity he had to come, take part in that contest and see how it goes. But he did not even show up. And that is what happens in a lot of instances. So how serious are they? And have they demonstrated that seriousness in getting to the #1 seat?
And to add, Mazio Habunwa for the PDP got 0. Meaning that...
And there were delegates from that region in that election.
There were delegates from State Abia. And he was wondering, what went wrong? These were people we came together, we dined together, and we hoped that they were going to do, but suddenly they changed. There's this thing, former governor of Ekiti State, the creator of stomach infrastructure philosophy. People collected money as alleged, and therefore they would just become steering, just sway it to any direction. And so the case of the Igbo too, I think that some of the outbursts and approach to key issues, especially for the youth, when you say IPOP, you are busy attacking government infrastructure, attacking government people who are employed by government. Is it INEC? Is it the police? Is it the military? You're making the place so ungovernable because you said you want to go. Now, if you look at even the map of Igbo Southeast, they are right inside Nigeria. And is this going to be another Lesotho, a country inside South Africa?
Also, before this primaries of the APC, we saw former governor of Abia State, Ojus Okalu, saying that if it is not zoned to the southeast, it should go to northeast. I mean, the election had not come at that time, but he was already campaigning for another region.
Absolutely, and he said east is east. What is applicable to northeast is applicable to southeast because they have not been able to produce. They are fighting insecurity. They have been marginalized. I mean, northwest, even when the president is from northwest, Daura, there are attacks in Daura. There are attacks in Katsina. There are attacks in... tell me the state that is virtually not under attack in that place, outside Jigawa. So, when people begin to say, let's destroy, we can't cut your nose to spite your face. What am I trying to say? You cannot think that if you destroy, it will therefore create sympathy, and therefore they bring in some developments in that place. I think that people would rather see that you've created fears And when you create fears, I mean, they look at you with suspicion. And I think that it is time that we just go to the round table, look for justice instead of fighting physically. You can fight for justice via the academics, via conferences, via negotiations, alignments, realignment, cajoling, begging, and ensuring that, look, present superior argument and people will believe in it. But when you take up arms, I mean, it's not it.
Okay, now I want us to talk about certain things going on in the APC. Earlier on, we saw a report from Katsina showing massive defection from the APC to the PDP. That's a major stronghold for the APC, being that that's the state of the president. Also, there's a story here that says Senate leader Yahya Abdullahi dumps APC for the PDP. Are we likely to see the APC we saw in 2015 and 2019 in 2023's general elections?
No, you see, 2015, 2019, at the mention of President Muhammadu Buhari, I mean, even the wheelbarrow pusher will show you his own voter's card. He was ready. But today, look at the commotion, political commotion taking place in Kano State. Kano State that will always produce almost the voting number of the Niger Delta area. It's in crisis. Kwankwaso is pushing this way, APC pushing this way, PDP is there. So, of course, APC will not have it easy. Well, we go back to Katsina where indeed you could see how many people have cross-carpeted. They say, look, we have left APC for PDP, the opposition. All is not well. And when you look at the reasons, they said, APC does not say thank you to those who indeed have been holding forth for that party. There is no reward system. So whatever they're looking for, I mean, people should begin to reward some people. When you have warning signals, you can see them clearly and you neglect them. It's always never the best. A good political strategist does not underrate opposition. Don't just say, no, that guy is just a mere councillor. You'll be shocked what some of them can do because they belong to the grassroots. After all, in Nigeria, there are some people classified as Abuja politicians. They are at the city here, at the federal level, but when you go to the state, they are not on ground. Not to talk of going to their local government, their wards, and even political voting units. They are not on ground there. So it's not going to be easy, bearing in mind that many of these camps, okay, Osinbajo is in the race. So to speak. And you look at his own political godfather, he's also in the race. So all is not too well yet. And Rocha Sokorocha is still bearing some grudges. That look, as a member, founding member of APC, he knew the challenges he had from APGA, how he was able to pull out and to join. And of course, they ensured APC got some followership in the southeastern part of the country. Today, he's saying he's under trial. He calls it persecution, of which to him, he was rich before he came to limelight.
So do you see in the APC mending fences before the general elections? Do you think they'll be able to bring all aggrieved members to the table? Don't forget that the former secretary, John Akpanodore, also defected about 3-4 days ago. In fact, he has moved to the NNPP.
Yeah, you see, if they were able to do it, they should also be mindful of the way they describe fellow party members. They call them nomadic politicians. I mean, when did becoming a nomad, how does it become a misnomer when it comes to a misnomer when it comes to life generally? So when you now liken politicians who change from this to that, that could be so offensive to some people. And of course, words are really more painful than sometimes a slap. And when you describe people who indeed were foundation members of APC, like some people are saying, the portion of President Buhari is not represented in the structure right now. the CPC elements of that APC. That is not represented anywhere, and so it is still a thing that APC should look at seriously.
All right. Now, one other feature of the primaries yesterday during the speeches of various aspirants was the over killings that was a moment of silence was observed for the victims of that attack, and that didn't happen until when Tunde Bakari came onto the podium. Many of them came and gave their speeches and left without even mentioning anything like that until when he came. And then the people after him also follow suit, to kind of show empathy for, and sensitivity to the killings that is happening in the country and all of that. So in terms of focusing on the current issues that we are dealing with in the country that needs urgent attention, how much of focus do you think has been given from the speeches that we had?
In terms of focus, in terms of selling candidates, in terms of marketing programs, in terms of ideology, I don't see it. It's just this.
Although some will say 2 minutes is not enough to actually say, but
2 minutes is not enough, but it takes just 1 second for someone to pull a trigger. So 2 minutes is quite a lot of time for you to say something. You know what sound bites are or footages on television when you have 2 minutes to say one very critical thing that will make a nation. But having said so, you see, when the St. Francis was attacked, see the way someone has parted with how much? Close to 100, one of the aspirants, 100 million to take care of that. And that tells you, I mean, if education had been taken care of that way, well, people are lamenting. I mean, people, loved ones have gone, and people, the living are mourning. Yes, there is the need to have this kind of sympathy. But in terms of substance in politics, when people are campaigning, we don't see how people will say, we need to bring in IPOB, we need to bring in Miyati Allah, we need to bring in whichever group, either in Southern Kaduna, in Benue, we need to bring Sunday Bohon. Can we come to the round table? This is what I am going to do. We'll bring them to the round table. And that was why one of the candidates, Tunde Bakari, is saying, people do some promises, even though they sound weak, they don't even tell you how they're going to overcome this. If a candidate says security is number one, and I think it should be, because anything a nation wants to achieve, there has to be security. Where are your investors? Tell me the investor who will come in under this kind of a situation. So when a politician mounts the rostrum and says, look, I'm going to ensure IPOB will bring you on board. We're going to bring all the dissenting voices, areas, come to the negotiation table. How am I going to do it? Let me see. Are there traditional rulers? Are there stakeholders? Are there people who indeed can speak with this? Are there contact persons? So that there's going to be a kind of a round table, a talk, if you like, you call it security summit, to ensure that we come out of this. The hatred is too much. Where are these religious leaders? Let us, if we say we are so prayerful, I mean, so be it.
Okay.
Like Yaya, sorry, just to make this point, Yaya Bello of Kogi State said, since Kogi State was created, there was a mosque in Government House. There hasn't been a chapel. That he has done it to ensure that there is a unity of purpose. People of different faith begin to come together. So if that is an approach to issue, if we are going to use religion to unite instead of dividing us, so be it. Let us get people of substance. Let us have the sultans of this world. Let us, every archbishop. In fact, at the point, Yewande Abimbola, who used to be advisor on traditional religion, because I saw that when some people have said, look, Christians, Muslims are losing, blah, blah.
Okay.
Well, Shoyinka came in to say, you've forgotten that there are also free thinkers that must also come on board to provide solutions.
Okay, there's one question I really need to ask you. We've been talking about affirmative action. We need women up there and all of that. But the lone presidential aspirant for the APC stepped down yesterday. What does that say? Are the women their own enemies? What's going on?
Not really that they are their own enemies, because if you watch, she gauged the mood of the place there. Some people say, oh,
well, she might have been the game changer though.
Yes, but if you check before she stepped down, she announced her stepping down. She said, well, I can see the mood where I'm almost being booed, but it also means that it is not yet time for us. And at this point,
but should anyone be vying and be waiting to see the mood in the venue of whatever is happening? Like, I mean, if you say you are easily swayed because of the mood in the place, then ab initio, perhaps you were never intending to even run for that office, because that office is so sensitive that if you are coming on board from day one, you should have planned out, you should have it all planned out as to what you are going to do, and you shouldn't be swayed by just because someone is cheering or someone is stepping down for another person, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, but you see, when you have to monitor the heartbeat, the situation, the environment, you have to also know comments. You also have to...
well, you must know that all the comments will not be in your favor, even before throwing your hat in the ring. Right?
Exactly, but when they are talking too bad, right from that place, it was like they were booing her, if you listen to it very well. It was like they were booing her. And, of course, her appearance on stage just showed somebody who was there for being sick and, you know, some roles in a drama. Some people, you describe them as wakapas, I mean, filling the gap. I'm sorry for that term. It's like she was really not set for that big event. To govern Nigeria, I think she ought to have started maybe from a councillor, local government chairman, now, and move ahead.
But, you know, again, that brings me to another issue of concern, is whether or not some of these aspirants were just holding spot for some. Because all right, so you have some of these people come and there's they do not have any presentation to make. They just come on the podium and just talk and talk.
Like
and
somebody
talk
who kept on talking about the president and giving the president's
direction
biography.
And the rest of them. So when such a person comes on board, you know, you just, you know, have no option than to conclude that, oh, perhaps this person was really never serious about this in the first place. And perhaps it's just a stooge for someone.
Yes, Elia, you see, when Bala of Bauchi State didn't get his ticket, he went back and there was a recontest for him to win, to be candidate again for the next election. When Tamboa didn't get, it was the same thing. Now, let us copy-paste in what is happening. Don't be surprised, some of these candidates were the ones who also gave some money to some people. Please come out, campaign vigorously. Make sure you win the hearts and minds of voters. In the end, it's an agreement. This is your court. On stage, step down for me. On stage, that person does same. On stage, that person does same. If not, tell me how 100 million naira, you just leave it and just disappear. I hereby withdraw my candidacy. Look at Ken Nnamani. As if there was nothing at stake. Just said, I hereby step down. Not for so person, not for so reason.
Yes, that also brings me to the question.
Just for
all
no
of
reason.
these people have paid 100 million and they have stepped down. I know they didn't step down for nothing. All of these people, for instance, 7 people stepped down for one person. Isn't that going to put a demand on this one person if he clinches the ticket and he eventually becomes the president? Because, I mean, people are going to go to that person and say, I bought for 100 million and I stepped down for you, and so you need to reward me.
There are those who even said that they are just going to they are just going to align with whoever emerges.
Whoever emerges. Exactly. There's one person that said so.
And honestly, when you look at the person of Fayemi, he even brought same thing with Dimeji Bankole. You know, Yoruba and tradition, Dobale kind of a thing. I said respect for elders. Someone said, look, if a young person wants to live like an elder, then you must respect the elder. And for that reason, I bow down. I withdraw my candidacy, my aspiration in favor of the oldest politician among us, Asiwaju. And of course, like they will say, Asiwaju, we have moved forward, we are moving forward. So to them, if they step down, of course, payback time is coming. And when is payback time? If APC wins, and of course, we're talking of sharing of portfolios.
And then
wouldn't
that cause danger to governance? Because when you're paying back the people that have helped to bring you in, and then governance begins to suffer, right?
Of course, it will suffer, except when you have people of conscience who indeed will feel, look, I've come to serve. But how many people actually come to serve under capitalism? Capitalism, you take care of yourself first, because most of the people that go in, it's I first, then the rest thereafter. So that is it.
All right. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on Daybreak this morning and sharing your perspectives with us. We look forward to having you again.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Yeah. Well, we've been speaking with Ben Sherman, Director of News, Voice of Nigeria, and he's been our guest reviewer this morning on Daybreak. We'll take a short breather, and then when we come back, the program will continue. Please stay with us.
Residents of the Federal Capital Territory are hereby alerted to the activities of scavengers, also known as Babambula, which security agencies have identified as a high-level security threat to not only the residents, but also to our infrastructure as they perpetrate petty stealing and acts of vandalism on public utilities. More so, they are drug peddlers, serve as spies to terrorist elements, and are ready-made tools for the public disturbances during which they attack people with dangerous weapons. The Federal Capital Territory Administration therefore reiterates that the ban on scavengers, aka Bababula, operating within the Federal Capital City is still in force. These miscreants are advised to stay off the streets of the Federal Capital City for their own good, as defaulters will be apprehended and prosecuted, including parents of underage children involved in these practices. Relevant agencies are carrying out enforcement of this ban as stipulated. Be law-abiding always. Let's together build the FCT of our dreams. Management Announcer.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
All right, thank you for staying with us. Now, you're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. Now, as the 2023 election draws nearer following the conclusion of political parties' primaries, young Nigerians are calling for presidential candidates of major parties to cede the vice presidential slot to youth. This morning on Daybreak, we have two representatives of young Nigerians who are drumming support for Dr. Ibrahim Dauda El-Dabi, who they described as the right fit as the nation's #2 man. We have in the studio Solomon Adudu, National President, National Youth Council of Nigeria. He will be talking to us about this. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me on Daybreak. Thank you for having me. God bless Nigeria.
You're welcome. Yeah. All right. Well, the conversation about youth political participation has been ongoing.
Yes.
Really. So Why is it so important that we have that now, even as the party primaries are ongoing?
Yes, you see, this conversation stretches back from 2018, or even prior to then. You know, Nigerian youth, we kept pushing for the Not Too Young to Run bill, so that we will have more young people in leadership to have the opportunity to sculpt a better pathway for our nation from an early stage. And thankfully, that bill was assented to in 2018. And when that bill was assented to, Mr. President, I remember, it was like a pact, like a covenant, like a binding agreement, like a contract with the Nigerian youth. He said very clearly that young Nigerians, allow me go for this seat in 2019, but I assure you that in 2023, I will ensure I hand over to the youth. Unfortunately, what we are seeing play out today does not leave a good deal for young Nigerians. We've seen most of the major political parties throw up people who are septuagenarians, who are at most, maybe the youngest we've seen will be in the late 50s. You know, nobody you will see maybe in the 30s or in the 40s. And so we say, like they always say, half bread is better than none. And we need a place of mentorship where we can also begin to grow, because leadership is a continuum, is a process. We are now demanding, particularly from Mr. President, and very clearly so from the ruling party, that now that we've seen all of those who mounted the rostrum yesterday for presidential candidacy of the party, we've seen the great Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we've seen our formidable vice president, and we saw quite a number of names and persons there. All of them clearly above 60. We have a very young man. We were even hoping, praying, and working assiduously to see to it that he emerges as the presidential candidate of the party. But when the northern governors came up and said, no, we should cede presidency, the APC should cede presidency to the South, because for us at the National Youth Council of Nigeria, we are across all parties. But we are particularly interested in the ruling party, APC, and we want to hold Mr. President by his words. He said he will hand over power to you. So if he's not giving us power, if the party is not giving us the #1 seat, we should at least get the #2 seat.
So you have youth, you know, in that race as well as an aspirant in the APC presidential primaries. Kogi State Governor, he has always, you know, brandished himself as a representative of the youth, right? So now, if you have such a person running by, you know, on that platform, why are you, you know, going for an Ibrahim Bello instead of, you know, the Yahya Bello?
You see, when we talk about youth, we don't just brandish numbers. We want to talk about people who have firm grip, control, relationship, track records, proven track records, not just because you have held an office. And with all due respect to the governor of Kogi State, he has held that very lofty office as governor of Kogi State. We love him. We appreciate what he's doing. But you see, our man, Eldabi, who also took a shot at the #1 seat, comes in with a fine edge, a very cutting-edge leadership finesse. If you look at his agenda, if you look at his manifesto on all areas of power, job creation, agriculture, and so on and so forth, if you look at it, it's a perfect manifesto. It's like a vision of a new Nigeria. So this is a young Nigerian who has come to the Nigerian youth and shared his vision with us. For us at the National Youth Council of Nigeria, we are open to everybody. But the truth is, if you do not come to us, we will not run to you. Leadership is a partnership between the people and the leader.
All right.
Yes, so Eldabi has shown his clear vision for the youth. He has shown a clear roadmap. And we know that whoever emerges today as presidential candidate, he will be a very reliable and formidable running mate that will ensure that youth will come on stream to give
all right,
support.
hold that thought. We'll continue. Let's take a short break now. When we return, the show continues. Please stay.
right, thanks for staying. You're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. Now, adding to the discussion, I would say discussants, here in the studio we have Ude Umanta Igwe, convener, Coalition of Nigerian Youth Leaders, and Director General, Nigerian Youth Institute for Leadership and Entrepreneurial Development. He also joins us to talk about Ibrahim Bello, who is also, Ibrahim Dauda rather, who is an aspirant that the youth in Nigeria under the National Youth Council is, gunning for, as the to be the vice president of Nigeria. Yeah, before we went on break, you were talking about the qualities of Dr. Ibrahim Dauda.
Exactly.
And I want to ask, Dr. Ibrahim Dauda, he's a Kanuri man from Borno State. And Borno State is one area where Boko Haram has held sway for over 10 years. What are the specific, what does he have to, what is his plan to tackle insecurity? Or what will be his support to whoever is the president, if he emerges as vice president, to tackle insecurity?
Exactly. That's a very good question. You see, when Dr. Dauda came for this interactive meeting, and of course, we get to know people through time. We looked at his antecedents, we looked at what he has done. He has been a foundation member of this APC right from the CPC days. But beyond anything, he has been someone who has a knack, a desire to see that the issue of insecurity is brought down, and that security now thrives, a new order comes. Fortunately, if you go to Borno State today, you realize that Ibrahim Bello Dauda practically engages with the youth, not only in Borno State, but across the Northeast. He has been carrying on the message that the Youth Council has been preaching, that the war against terrorism is not only by weapons and by all of these military hardware. You have to also engage the youth positively. He has done a lot of empowerment programs, dissuading those who should have been recruited into Boko Haram. If you recall, when this issue of insurgency started in or got to its fall around 2010 or thereabout, how many Boko Haram people, insurgents did we have? The military has been fighting them, combating them, exterminating, eliminating, whatever words you will use, but you discover their ranks were increasing. And so, from our findings, Dr. Dauda had a very strong engagement with the youth and said, okay, we have realized that these young people are easily recruited because most of them are unemployed, because there is no engagement with most of them. Society has seen them as the dregs of society. They have been neglected. And he immediately began to engage with all of these young people. You can see today, the numbers are going down. Even most of the terrorists are giving up their negative attributes or their fight against the nation. They are coming back. So he has carried on the message. And we are very certain that in the seat of power, as the number 2 man, he will spread this across, because he has done this efficiently and effectively in his zone, empowering them and then mentoring and then also engaging positively. Now we know that once the APC does the needful, and by the grace of God, if he becomes the vice president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, we can work with him to replicate this model in the Northwest, where banditry has become the order of the day. We can work with him to replicate this model of peaceful and harmonious relationship with the youth in the Southeast, where secession is becoming the order of the day, and across the country. And you'll realize that the issue of insecurity, beyond guns and bombs, would have used the right words, the right engagements, and youth empowerment to tackle all of
when we talk youth, we also talking about the very young people as well, right? And then in Nigeria, we have a very high figure of out-of-school children. And I'm putting this to Igwe. What are Dauda's plans? What are his thoughts on education?
Thank you. The first we start is what is Dauda's educational standing as a person. This man holds, as a young man, he holds a doctoral degree in business management, and has certificates from both within Nigeria and outside. He's properly educated. And to link it with what the president was saying, the link between the socioeconomic realities and even the insurgency is that the problem was that when Borno and Yobe and all these states started posting the figures about the out-of-school children, no practical attention was paid in trying to address them. And so it becomes not just a fatal ground for terrorism, but also to recruit foot soldiers. And so this is a man who himself, grew through the ranks of education, trained himself well and know the benefits of education, and has not kept it to himself within the foundations that is formed. That's why we say he's not just a politician. This is somebody we know through youth mentorship. That's actually how we got to know about him, through youth mentorship. And he has, as the Director General of Nigerian Youth Institute for Leadership and Entrepreneurial Development, I know how many people that he has sponsored for training and development in skills, in entrepreneurship, and we know how many as a person. So, like I said, giving him a higher platform, especially to reach, because I keep saying this, the first time we talked about his presidency, somebody told me that I wasn't from the Southeast, where the presidency is also needed in terms of geographical zoning. And I said there are different kinds of zones. Without prejudice to our people in the Southeast, I am rather concerned about the youth zone. And I talk this with every sense of responsibility, that in promoting we are promoting the youth zone, and someone who has acquitted himself within the youth zone, not using government resources. A very responsible young person who built himself and believed that we rise by building each other. And he has demonstrated it. And so I agree with you that practically the out-of-school children issue is one of the things that will be confronting the next government. And it is good to have a deputy who is not only affected by it within his own region, but who knows about it, who has worked with it, and who will keep it within the table of discussion within the Federal Executive Council.
All right. Now, also among youth, there are other, groups, women, there are young women as well who are in the same political terrain. So how would his, becoming vice president give this, give some level of opportunities as well for other young people, who are also within the political realm and also in other fields of endeavor?
Thank you very much. You see, when we talk about leadership, for us at the National Youth Council of Nigeria, we have always said we want young people to rise to leadership, but you must prepare for power. Dr. Ibrahim Bello Dauda Eldabi is someone who has prepared himself. In the youth constituency, you have rightly said it, there are women there, there are children, younger youth who are from adolescent age, maybe from 15 and up to 18 and 21. And then there are also disabled persons. We have seen that the activities of Dr. Ibrahim Bello Dauda has cut across all strata of youth. The women, the disabled, persons with disabilities, trainings have been carried on. And then when you also talk about education, you see, not everybody will go to the four walls of the university, but education is to know, to have a knowledge that can be practically put to use. So Dr. Dauda is someone who has traversed all, so that even the market women, there is a kind of education for them. Those who are trading, there is a kind of education for them. Those who want to go to technical and vocational skills, there is also a kind of education for them. We've worked on all of these things. What we are saying now, and our firm demand, let us repeat it and let us make it very clear, that for the APC to get the support of the Nigerian youth, we are ready to mobilize and give this support. If Mr. President, we are reenacting this pact with him. From this, we wrote to him before now through the coalition of youth bodies. We are still going to write to him again after this primaries is concluded, that remember your pact, remember your covenant. Remember that you have believed in the Nigerian youth as the future that can sustain your legacy. Whoever comes in, what matters is an enduring legacy, a thread that goes on for the Nigeria that the patriarchs, our founding fathers dreamt about. In Dr. Ibrahim Bello Dauda, we see this individual. So we are still calling on Mr. President, and we are still assuring Nigerians that yes, there will be a better deal. Things are not perfect, but there are people, even in the private sector, who have been working. If they are given seats in the public sector, who are diligent, who are patriotic, their patriotism is not born out of anything but pure altruism to see that a new Nigeria is bettered, a greater Nigeria is bettered. And we are still calling on the party chairman. We want to repeat it, and we thank Daybreak for giving us this medium as youth to call on all stakeholders in the APC to ensure that this young man emerges as the vice presidential candidate of the All Progressives Party, All Progressives Congress.
All right, well, let me get Udem Mata Igwe to also, give us his own final word.
All right. Thank you. Talking about it, the question of the youth taking over or getting into the system is something, like he said, there was a pact. All of us played roles, and we thank Yaga Africa and the young parliamentarians and other stakeholders who made the not too young to run bill now an act, to become an act now. And if you recall, as media, in assenting to that bill, the president praised the efforts of all stakeholders that work to that level, and say he agreed and he believes in the true spirit and letters of the bill, and requested the youth to support him, and that he will be willing to hand over to younger people. But when you look at the terrain now, when you look at even the APC primaries that is ongoing, that, somebody like me just left the venue a few hours ago, it doesn't look as if there are really quite young people that stands the chance. But you see, in politics, is a thing of, give and take. What we are asking for is that if we cannot be the flag bearers, even when we are ready, like you say, we are not just saying that Dr. Eldabi is young. We are talking about being young and ready, being young and capable. And we're saying that if we cannot be the standard bearer, we should be the running mate. In order for us to have the face to tell the young people, at least we are getting somewhere, let's follow this. If not, it will be difficult, because there is a youth o'clock that's been launched by the National Youth Council, and the youth must, of course, you already seen that 64% of the people that register to vote, and not only the youth, but our national youth policy is 18 to 35 years. Now 18 to 35 years constitutes 64%, according to INEC statistics. We are not even talking about the other people that do not fall, but are young people, those slightly older than us, who are now occupying another 28%. And so we are not going to be watching this vote and then giving it to people that are very, very close to retirement or retirement age. So the youth are going to utilize it. And we are saying that APC should take advantage of it or lose it. That's
all right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak and sharing, the knowledge about Ibrahim Dauda with us. We look forward to having you on the program again.
Thank you very much for having us. Yeah. God bless Nigeria.
It's been our pleasure.
All right. We've been speaking with Solomon Adodo, the National President, National Youth Council of Nigeria, and also Ude Umanta Igwe, the convener, Coalition of Nigerian Youth Leaders, and also Director General, Nigerian Youth Institute for Leadership and Entrepreneurial Development. With that, we've come to the end of the show for today, but we're bringing you live coverage of the APC presidential primaries ongoing at the Eagle Square right now. In case you've missed part of the show, you can connect with us via all social media platforms and also on YouTube. My name is Ayuba Ilya. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for spending this part of the morning with us. Stay tuned to Trust TV throughout the day for the results of the APC Congress and for a post-mortem of the exercise that took place through last night to today. My name is Stella Yaji. Do well to join us same time, same station tomorrow. Bye for now.